and Sunday. I will be ministering here tonight and Sunday. And I don't really need my glasses, but I think I'm going to use them tonight for some reason. I'm super excited. I told, I think it was Bridget, maybe Miss Lisa, I don't know, maybe both of them, that we're going to be speaking tonight on Saul and David and Jonathan. And, you know what? I'm just do this. I don't know, I'm so short that, yeah, let's do it this way. That way I can measure. I feel like I have to get on my tippy toes back there behind that podium. So. I need a step block back there. There you go. Yeah, Jerry's holding my gun. Is this tall enough? Yes, Jerry. So tonight I'm going to be speaking on Saul and David and Jonathan. The title of my message is called The Aftermath of a Giant Killer. The Aftermath of a Giant Killer. When was the last time that you thanked God for not showing you the future? When was the last time that you thanked God? Thank you, God, for not showing me what I'm going to go down the road. Just think of all the stuff that you didn't have to worry about because you didn't know what the future holds. One of the best things that God does for us is to keep us from knowing what will happen beyond today. It's kind of our safety net. We don't need to know what's going on tomorrow. Amen? And so, one of the best things that God does for us is to keep us from knowing what will happen beyond today. God never changes. We change, but God never changes. We change. Places we live, places we go, change. People change. The people we hang with, the people we don't hang with anymore. Think about the people you used to hang with 5 years ago. Are those the same folks you're hanging with today? No, probably not. Friends change, jobs change, our children change, our health changes. I'm going to tell you, helping with this the other day, I could tell I've gotten a little older. Getting up on that ladder, getting down off that ladder, trying to pick up something heavy, I've noticed the changes. But just think what happened in the last 5 years for you, or even a year ago. And are we glad that God doesn't show us what our life is ahead of time? Or what I would say is, aren't you glad that God doesn't show us our life ahead of time, or like on credit? This is the way that God does it. He dispenses life a little at a time. It's like hand soap. You put a little on, a little at a time, and it cleans and it changes the appearance of us. Well, that's what God does. He doesn't show us our future. And so, because God never changes and He knows what works together for our good. We don't. We think we do. We think we know what works for us, but we don't. We ricochet from one moment to the next, trying to put things together, what life is all about. We might even say, well, maybe if I do it this way, or maybe if I do it that way, I think this is what's perfect for my life. And often we don't have the wisdom to really figure it out. And so God is so good not to show us our tomorrows. That's what makes the Bible so relevant. How gracious God was with David to give him one day at a time. See, some people think that David, after killing the giant, had taken, within a few days, had taken the throne. They think since, he killed the giant, now he's on the throne. But that ain't how it worked. How many of us know that that's not true? Same in our walk with God. We slay some giant things in our way, and we say that thing is dead, it's gone, it's no longer a part of us. But that's not the end of the battle. It's the aftermath of the killing the giant that led David into one of his deepest, longest, darkest, valleys of his life. See, David proved himself faithful among the sheep, and on the battlefield, he went from the highest pinnacle of popularity to the lowest depression of despair. And God was God, not to tell David all that was coming his way for his future. A young man, not even probably 20, he never wore a uniform. He never suited up for battle. He never never once known what it was to carry a sword. He was a shepherd. He was a shepherd boy. So here he is. He ran onto the battlefield. He faced that giant head on, killed him with one throw of a sling, and the results were David gained instant popularity. Well, wouldn't you get instant popularity if you went and killed the giant that was pestering all your friends? Absolutely. And he became a national hero. And Saul made good on his promise. David became a permanent part of the king's court. He became an overnight celebrity. He knew how to live with success without having it affect him. At this point in his life that it's unfolding, and I see in this chapter as I'm reading it, there's 4 different things that I see in this chapter about David's life as it's unfolding here. The first thing I see is that he has a relationship of submission to Saul. The second thing I see, and I'm going to break these down, so I'm giving you the sections, and then we're going to go into them sections. I see that he has a relationship of submission to Saul. I see that he has a relationship of affection to Saul's son, Jonathan. I see that he's got a relationship of exaltation with the people of Israel. And I see a relationship of opposition with Saul that lasted for year after year after year. Sometimes we think, oh, we killed the giant, the battle's over. And then here we have Saul chasing David year after year after year. God's hand was on David, though. And God was going to use him as the greatest king in history of Israel. But to do that, God had to, and this comes from our weekend, ladies. I've already started this message, but this comes from our weekend. The first thing that God had to do with David is to break him, to hone him, to sharpen him, and to crush him. And David was about to enter this crucible pain. Now, aren't you glad you don't know what your future has?
Yes.
I am. I don't want to know that I'm going to be broken down the road, and that I'm going to be honed in, and that I'm going to be sharpened, and I'm going to be crushed. I don't want to know that. I want to live happy days. Happy days are here again. But here David was about to enter into this crucible pain. And thank God he doesn't let us see our future. We would have ran the other way most of the time. And some folks have. They think, okay, my future looks like it's glim, so I'm going to run to alcohol, or I'm going to run to drugs, or I'm going to run to, looseness, or I'm trying to be good here. And so the first thing I see that happens with David is that during this is the relationship of submission to Saul. 1 Samuel chapter 18, verses 2 through 5, Saul wouldn't let David return to his sheep. And it says here in 1 Samuel 18, verses 2 through 5, and I hope Gary can keep up with me. And Saul, yes, thank you. And Saul took him that day and didn't let him return to his father's house. So David went wherever Saul had sent him. Here is this champ, the giant slayer. He went wherever Saul had told him to go. This shows loyalty, submission to the king. He served as an intern incognito. Thinking about this, the first thing I see after this, Saul's given him his promise. He serves as an intern incognito. The second thing I see, a king in the making, without even Saul realizing it, because Saul's keeping his promise. And what happens? He prospers. He prospers. Saul was grooming him, and he didn't even know that he was grooming him. 4 times in the same chapter, it says that David prospered and that he behaved wisely. You see, he simply didn't he did what God led him to do. First, he submitted to authority. And the second thing was God lifted him up above his peers. That was the first relationship that I see with Saul and David. The second relationship was the affection of Jonathan. In 1 Samuel 18, 1 through 3, it says, "It came about that when David, had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knitted to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as himself. Then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. And this was the son of the king, Jonathan. God knew that David needed this intimate friend to walk with him through the valley that was about to be ahead. God sends us intimate friends. Yes. Intimate friends. I want to just break this part down. Intimate friends. Intimate friends are rare in a lifetime. Often we only have one, maybe two, usually not more than 3 your entire life. And there is something about that intimate friend that causes our souls to be knit together, a kindred spirit, as you would say. An intimate friendship, there's 4 characters of an intimate friendship, and this is what David and Jonathan had. The first character of an intimate friendship is that an intimate friend is willing to sacrifice. They're willing to sacrifice. No, number 1, you don't have to beg a close friend for a favor. 1 Samuel 18:4, it says that Jonathan stripped himself of his robe that was on him and gave it to David with his armor, including his sword and his bow and his belt. What I see here is that he took off his protection and he exposed himself. He gave it to him. This is a real friend. Who comes off to bring it? Only a real friend would give you their clothes off their back, and that's the truth. These things meant something to Jonathan. Think about it. His armor, his sword, his bow, his belt, and each one of those, you could break those down and make a whole sermon out of that itself. These things meant something to Jonathan. Friends will do that they are not stingy with their possessions. 1 Samuel 24. Jonathan says to David, "Whatever you say, I'll do." You see that those words are of an intimate friend. Whatever you want me to do, whatever you say, yeah, I'll do it. An intimate friend don't keep score. Intimate friends are always there to assist you whenever and wherever what is needed. Their unselfishness prevails. The second thing I see of the 4 characteristics of an intimate friend is a loyal defense before others. Number 1, an intimate friend is not a fair weather friend. They're your friend today, then the wind blows in, they can't handle your storm, so then they blow out. That's a fair weather friend. An intimate friend is not a fair weather friend. He won't talk against you. Second thing, he won't talk against you when you are not around. 1 Samuel 19, 4 and 5, Jonathan spoke very well of David to Saul, his dad. That was very significant because Saul was not only king and Jonathan's father, but he also, by the time that Saul had determined to be David's enemy, by that time. During that time, he was Jonathan's father, he is the king, but then he determines at that time he's going to be David's enemy. And Jonathan said to him, Saul, his father, "Don't let the king sin against his servant David, since he has not sinned against you, since his deeds have been very beneficial to you." What a friend. Think about this. What a friend. No pettiness, no envy, no jealousy. Now think about this. This is the father's son. Think about this. Jonathan, Saul's son, might have been the heir to this throne, getting the praises of the people, but some kid comes in, gathering it all, and still Jonathan stands in his defense of his friend against his own father. The third thing I see in an intimate friendship is that intimate friends give each other freedom to be themselves. I want to just stop right here. love it about Chelsea. That girl is a freedom person herself.
Yes,
And intimate friends give each other the freedom to be themselves. Nobody goes up to her and says, you know, you need to change your look, or you need to do this, or you need to do that. No. Intimate friends give each other the freedom to be themselves. I can't be Lisa. I can't be Bridget. I can't be Sherry. I can't be Carolyn. I can't be Jerry. I'm only going to use the ladies because I know I can't be any of you guys. I have to be me. I can't be Pastor Law and minister the word. I'm just not like that. That's just not me. And years and years and years, that used to be my thing. Well, I can't preach like them. I can't talk like them. I can't bring like them. Wait a minute. Intimate friends give each other the freedom to be themselves. Okay, so I might be a little boring. I don't know what else to do. This is the only thing God's given me right here. The first thing is, when you have a friend this close, this knitted to your own soul, you don't have to explain why you do what you do. You just do. Lisa's always telling me when I call her, Leah, I'm sorry I didn't take your call. I was about. She goes, you don't have to tell me that. Almost every time. And I don't know, I'm that person that says, hey, I'm sorry I didn't take your call. I was on the phone with blah, 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 blah. She cuts me off every time. You don't need to tell me that. When you have a friend this close, this knitted to your own soul, you don't have to explain what you do, why you did it, and you just do it. 1 Samuel 20:41. And David rose from the south side and fell on his face to the ground and bowed 3 times. And they kissed each other and wept together. But David more. What I see here is, you see that when your heart is so broken, you can bleed all over a friend like this, and he will understand. A friend. He won't confront you in your misery or share 3 verses with you and tell you to straighten up. Now, he might tell you that, but in that moment, he knows exactly what to give you as a friend. When a friend is hurting, let him hurt. If he is weeping, let him weep. If a good friend needs to complain, listen. An intimate friend doesn't bail. He is right with you. He doesn't leave you. He doesn't bail when the circumstances, when the rubber meets the road or the flames are too hot. He's right with you. You can be yourself, and no matter what that self looks like, you can be yourself.
yes.
The fourth characteristic of an intimate friend is a consistent source of encouragement. 1 Samuel 23:15 and 16. Now David became more aware that Saul had come out to seek his life. He's more aware someone is chasing him. And while David was in the wilderness of Zeph at Horesh, and Jonathan, Saul's son, went to David at Horesh, and he encouraged him in God. Now, this is what I'm saying here. Here we have a hitman after David, and this is your best friend's dad, Jonathan, Saul's son. And this hitman's after you. What does the son of a hitman do? But encourage his friend. Jonathan sees David at the lowest moment of his life and brings him encouragement, saying, not to worry, I'm here now with you, no matter what's happening. Someone said, loneliness is the most desperate of all English words, and Jesus even surrounded himself with friends. And here David is, he's all by himself, and he knows that Saul's chasing him. He's alone, and God sends him his friend. Those are the 4 characteristics of an intimate friend. The sacrifice, the loyal, the freedom to be yourself, and one that encourages. So these intimate friendships are here. And as we were talking in regards to David's life and what's unfolding into his life are the 4 different things that I see. First of all, his relationship and submission to Paul, and then the relationship of his affection with Saul, and then his affection to Saul's son Jonathan, and then the 3rd relationship that I see that David is having here is the relationship of exaltation with the people of Israel. 1 Samuel 18:5. So David went wherever Saul sent him and prospered, and Saul sent him over the men at war. And it was pleasing in the sight of all the people and also in all the sight of Saul's servants. Remember that David never served in an army, let alone in any official role of leadership. But now he is in charge of troops, and he did it well enough to impress the king's servants. And despite of his age and his inexperience, and sometimes we use those things as excuses, well, I'm not old enough, or I'm too old, or I'm not experienced enough, or that's just not my forte. Despite his age and his inexperience, David knew how to conduct himself. 1 Samuel 18, 6 and 7. And when David returned from killing the Philistine, the women came out of all the cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet the king, to meet King Saul, with their tambourines, with joy, with musical instruments. And the women sang as they played and said, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. And you see that, we see here that they were welcoming and honoring this kid who defended the name of God.
Yes.
And so here's a couple of scriptures that best describe David at this very time in his life. 1 Samuel 18:14. And David was prospering in all his ways, for the Lord was with him. The word prosper in the Hebrew, I looked that up, and and I don't know how if I'm going to pronounce it correctly or not, but it's spelled S-A-K-A-L. So I would say sekel. And there's two things about this term. The first one, Proverbs 10:19, it says, when there are many words, transgression is unavoidable, but he who restrains his lips is wise, or he is sekel. A person who is wise, or sekel, is one who prospers, one who knows how to keep his mouth shut. A good friend can be trusted with the details of your life. Therefore, when he does open his mouth, he opens it with discretion. That this is a sign of a sekel person, or a wise person, a prosperous person. And that was David. He was a wise person. The second scripture is found in Proverbs 21:11. When the scoffer is punished, the naive become wise, but when the wise is instructed, he receives knowledge. This is the sekel person, or the wise person, the prosperous person, is teachable. This was David. He was wise because he guarded his lips, and he kept a teachable spirit. No matter how fast the promotion or how high the exaltation of the people may have been, we are to never to lose our teachability. David didn't lose his teachability. We should never reach a level where we are above criticism or are no longer need input of others. Sometimes that's when we learn our best lessons is from our enemies. You know why? Because most times, our enemies are probably telling us the truth. We don't like it. The fourth relationship that I've seen in this passage is the relationship of the opposition of Saul. And I was thinking, man, that man had it out for him. 1 Samuel 18, 8 and 9. Then Saul became very angry for them saying, the praises of the women were singing about David. It displeased him, and he said, they have ascribed to David 10,000, but to me they only ascribed 1,000. Talk about jealous. Whoa. And now, what more can he have? The kingdom? And Saul looked at David with suspicion from that day on. Jealousy, man. And we see first David didn't deserve the treatment. We know he didn't deserve that treatment. Saul had done to him. And David didn't do anything wrong. And David was a sekel, or a wise man. His motives were right, his leadership was right, but Saul's jealousy got in the way. 1 Samuel 18:8 says that Saul became very angry. The Hebrew word here is chara, or to burn within. Chara, like charred. And we would say that Saul did a slow burn. For this saying displeased him. The Hebrew word here means inner turmoil. The word displeased means inner turmoil. And so Saul's stomach is turning within him. And because of this jealousy, this in turn created fear, which turned around and created worry, which turned around and created Saul becoming paranoid. And what more can he have now but the kingdom? His self-talk lost control. You can hear him. Can't you hear him?
Yes.
What? They're singing for him that he's got 10,000 and I only got 1,000. What else does he want? The kingdom? I've got a giant killer who's going to become a king killer, is what Saul's thinking. Think about it. I've got this giant killer who's going to become a king killer.
Yes.
What am I going to do about that? Saul is afraid of his own shadow. And so Saul, he looks at David with suspicion from that day on. When his imagination is fueled by jealousy and suspicion takes over. Doesn't that happen with us? So, on a personal note, I went through something about 2 weeks ago, maybe or so, and I screwed up. I screwed up. Oh my gosh. And so my mind started, I couldn't sleep. I had to call a friend and I had to call them and talk to them and tell them, I need a little guidance here. I need your prayer. I need you to help me walk through this. I need to make this right. I got to correct this. And they were so kind and walked me through it. And I went there, but I'm going to tell you, the imagination of my mind for like 3 days, because I really felt like I screwed up. And it was eating my lunch. And it was going at me. Well, wonder if they said this, or wonder if they heard this, or wonder if they'll never be back, and wonder if they, wonder if they don't want to be my friend anymore. It was just like, it was just eating me up. And I can see how Saul, thinking he's going to lose that kingdom, how the imagination is fueled by jealousy and suspicions now is taking over. I can feel it. Needless to say, I took care of my thing, and you know what the person told me? I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, if I would have known that, Lord, I would have never said anything in the first place. I would have never taught. But it was really for me to learn a lesson. It really was about me learning my lesson. And I'm going to tell you, imagination was taking over.
Absolutely, it can.
It can fuel it. And so here Saul is, when imagination is fueled by jealousy, suspicion takes over. And at that point, dangerous things started to occur. David did nothing to deserve this. He had served God. He killed a giant. He submitted himself to authority, and he had been handled himself well behaved. He was handled himself, behaved very properly. 1 Samuel 18:15 says, when Saul saw he was prospering greatly, he dreaded him. Dreaded? He dreaded him, David. Why? Because Saul saw that God was on David's side. And Saul, he didn't have that kind of power. Saul's madness caused him to lose sight of the wholesome and the responsibility of the objective. How the grace of God, and how we think about how the grace of God didn't reveal to David the pain of what he would go through. Thank you, Jesus, you don't show us the future. Just because he killed that giant. I'm about done, and I just want to recap here. First thing is, not knowing the future forces us to take one day at a time. It forces us to take one day at a time, not knowing the future. The second thing is, having an intimate friend helps us face whatever comes our way. Thank you, Lord, for our friends. We need them. We're not lone islands out here. We need need you, Lord. And he's going, Being positive and wise, or seiko, a wise, is the best reaction to the enemy. Number 4, walking in victory is the difference between what pleases us and what pleases God. Like David, we need to steadfast to what is right without tiring of it. Plain and simple thing is that what pleases God. This is why he's left us here on earth, isn't it?
Yes.
We want to please him.
Yes.
We want to please God. And we need these. We need these relationships. As David has submitted to Saul, and then he got that friendship with Jonathan, the affection of Saul's son. And then, even though the people exalted him, David handled him very properly. And even with the opposition of Saul, he behaved himself, and he did not bring anything of ill reputation on himself. And all because he killed a giant. The enemy wanted to come and take him and make him. Stand with me tonight. Thank God God doesn't tell us our future. Thank God we can walk out of here and say, okay, we know God's got us covered. And when we do face those circumstances, he sends us a friend who's going to be with us and encourage us all the way through. Amen?
Amen.
Father, Lord, I just, first of all, I thank you for the word tonight. I thank you, God, that you placed this on my heart a couple weeks ago, and as I was bringing it into what you needed me to bring it into, God, I just thank you, God, that I just want to be what you want us to be. I want to go where you want us to go. And God, I thank you, God, that you've given us those intimate friends, Father. Lord, that have come to us and encouraged us. And tonight, Father, as we go out tonight, Father, Lord, send this to someone, Father. Let us be encouragers to those, Father, that are around us. In the name of Jesus, we thank you. Amen.
Amen.